Well, people, over 3 years ago, Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics gave us a teaser trailer for Marvel's Avengers. We waited and waited until E3 last year. They showed us what they've been working on, and while a lot of people were disappointed, I was optimistic. Not long ago we got the beta and I played the crap out of it, and while something still felt off, I was still looking forward to the game's release, and honestly, wow. We've come a long way from the 2008 era of the Marvel movie tie-in games.
No, okay. Let's not get into all that stuff.
Now, before I get into it, I will be reviewing the story and some mechanics as one video, and multiplayer and the rest of the mechanics as another video, as there is a load to unpack here. The team behind the most recent Tomb Raider reboot series have turned their attention to Earth's mightiest heroes, the Avengers. Marvel's Avengers is set in an established Marvel universe. Not the MCU, as the characters you can see here don't resemble their movie counterparts, but also not the 616 universe, because that shouldn't be fucking touched. Are you listening, Sony? The Avengers are already an established team consisting of everyone from the first 2012 film, except for Hawkeye, who we'll get to later. The story starts on A-Day, where the Avengers are celebrating and unveiling their second Avengers headquarters in San Francisco and their new helicarrier, the Chimera. You'll start playing as a young Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, as you attend A-Day on the Chimera. The start of the game is a little similar to the carnival part of Bioshock Infinite, where you'll explore a showground party area. The opening 10 minutes or so of gameplay is fantastic. Kamala, as you'd expect, is a massive Avengers fan who's been invited to the A-Day celebration alongside other kids for writing fanfiction comics. You'll be tasked with obtaining 5 comics in this carnival festival area before moving onto a VIP balcony, which at first I thought was a little fetch questy and boring, but fuck was I wrong. As you move about, you'll run into Avengers along the way. Meeting Thor inside an Iron Man store is hilarious, but also provides great character dialogue. As a young Kamala Khan, you'll meet most of the Avengers, but by far the one that hit me the hardest was Captain America. Just like all forms of fandom, there's toxic asshats who think that they're the only hardcore fans and treat others like crap. And of course, this happens to Kamala. She stands up to these bullies, and my god, the boy in blue appears. Now, it might be the fact that I live in Melbourne and I've been stuck inside my house for 6 months. I'm not joking. Or the idea of a kid standing up against 2 fuckwits trying to push her away, but this scene hit me hard. Not only does Kamala basically say to the audience, hey, this fandom, and any fandom really, can be for everyone, not just for hardcore nerds who abuse new fans. However, the party is shut down after Taskmaster attacks the Golden Gate Bridge. Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, and Black Widow set out to stop Taskmaster, but something goes drastically wrong. The Chimera's power reactor, powered by a Terrigen crystal, explodes, killing Captain America. But Captain America's dead, like Batman being dead in the Gotham Knights game, right? The aftermath of the explosion spreads Terrigen mist across San Francisco, turning regular civilians into Inhumans. The Avengers are blamed for the Chimera's explosion, Captain America's death, and the Inhumans, and from this, disband. Before this though, you'll be playing as each Avenger trying to stop Taskmaster. You'll get a teaser of the Kratos-inspired combat of Thor before chasing after mercenaries as Iron Man zipping through the bridge. Though it's worth noting, as soon as you start playing as Iron Man, it's a bit of an on-rail shooter moment, which isn't how this game works. You'll need to dodge left and right and shoot enemies around you, but you'll only have one other on-rails moment as Iron Man in the campaign after this, and that's it. So don't worry if you think Iron Man's gameplay looks boring, it's actually quite the opposite. After this, you'll be smashing things around as the Hulk, leaping from area to area and defeating enemies and even throwing tanks. You'll then get a tease of Captain America's combat, which is damn satisfying. Savor this moment while you can, because you won't be playing as Captain America for about 8 or 9 hours after this. Finally, you'll take on Taskmaster as Black Widow, and while this boss fight is satisfying and fun and the cutscenes are super cinematic, the solo gameplay outside of this is meh. After the events of A-Day, the game will skip 5 years and you'll be playing as Kamala Khan with her inhuman polymorph abilities. After smashing everything during A-Day, you'll be traversing rooftops, solving minor puzzles, avoiding AIM Inhuman detectors, and, well, smashing more things. You'll play as Kamala for the first hour or so, and you can see where Square Enix's Tomb Raider series really helped create these levels, and you'll never really experience something like this for the rest of the game, which is a shame. Kamala's gameplay is what you'd expect as playing as Mrs. Marvel, and for those of you who don't know this character, she's a bit like Mr. Fantastic. She'll stretch out and deal somewhat decent damage, and she'll also have 3 separate abilities, one of which makes herself huge and deals wicked amounts of damage. She's also got a wicked high 5 ability too. As the story develops, you'll look for the resistance, and honestly, anything owned by Disney has a fucking resistance these days, against AIM, who have popped up after the Avengers disassembled, claiming they want to help mankind and cure the Inhumans. In the story mode, you'll unlock characters as you recruit them as Kamala. You'll find a decommissioned Chimera in the middle of Utah, because nothing ever happens in Utah. From here, you'll have a pretty cool cat and mouse chase scene against the Hulk, and again you can see the Tomb Raider inspiration on the Avengers. The opening mission playing as the Hulk is basically the same as what you got in the beta if you played the beta. The Hulk plays like you'd expect, a close range tank class. He'll deal loads of damage, and pulling the right trigger he'll go into a rage mode, dealing more damage and healing himself at the same time. Of course, his ultimate ability is his iconic Thunderclap, and Hulk will deal the most damage compared to other Avengers. However, the cutscenes make Hulk seem like he does in the MCU, and that's incredible. You'll see him flat out pick up tanks and throw them as he kicks away grunts with little to no effort. But gameplay, however, you'll be swinging and wailing on enemies until they drop, and having to connect 3 to 4 hits as the Hulk against a standard AIM human enemy doesn't really make sense or relate to what's going on in the cutscenes. After you've unlocked the Hulk and you have the option to swap between the Hulk and Ms. Marvel, you'll then set off to recruit Iron Man. By far, the best recruit mission in Avengers is the Iron Man's mission, hands down. After the events of A-Day, Iron Man is living in a trailer in an ancient family mansion. AIM track you down and start attacking Tony without his armor, and rather than calling his armor remotely like he does in the movies, Tony has to go into the house and find his makeshift armor piece by piece.
Good thing I don't have neighbors. They'd be so pissed off right now.
This moment feels like it's pulled right out of the Tomb Raider, or better yet, the Uncharted series, as Nolan North voices Tony Stark in the Avengers. Now from here you can play as Iron Man, but for some reason the following missions as Iron Man have him set out to make his armor again. Which is weird, as Iron Man is already an established character in this universe. You'll have your flight suit, which is what you start off with, which I can see a heap of people cosplaying as, before making the Mark II, which is pretty rough, but it looks more like Iron Man before making the Mark III, which is the exact same outfit he has at the start of the game. It feels like the suit he makes after you unlock him should be better and look different to what he was wearing on A-Day, because he's an established character and the game is set 5 years later. Fuck, look at the Iron Man suits in the films after 5 years. Iron Man's gameplay is pretty damn fun. You'll be flying around inside and outside of maps as you use your repulsors, lasers and rockets against enemies. Now you will be able to fly for as long as you want, and clicking in the thumbstick you'll go in from a hovering mode to a flight mode which acts like a jet fighter. But you won't be able to spam your repulsors, lasers or rockets as they run on an energy system. When your energy runs low you won't be able to use your ranged attacks. To charge up your energy you either need to simply wait for it to recharge, which thankfully isn't too long, or get in close with enemies as melee attacks charge it quicker. Iron Man's abilities will let him overcharge his reactors so you can spam your ranged attacks without dropping energy. You'll also fire a concentrated unibeam blast from his chest and call down the Hulkbuster for his ultimate. The Hulkbuster makes you invulnerable for about 20 to 30 seconds and you deal a heap of damage, but you won't be able to fly like you previously could without the armor. You've now got 3 Avengers to swap between before you get to the worst character unlock mission in the game, and that's Black Widow. Now as you play the game you'll go up against more difficult enemies, which if I was constantly playing as Iron Man or Hulk, I'd got a tactic on how to take these enemies out. Playing as Black Widow, you'll go up against a few of these enemies, some of which are flat out assholes to take out even as the Hulk. Black Widow is a bit of a rogue class character and works fantastic alongside her fellow Avengers, but solo, she sucks. Her abilities let anyone around her and herself go invisible. She'll also fire an electric shock from her gauntlets, which I feel like this shouldn't be a special attack, it should just be a normal one, and her ultimate ability is that she makes a bow staff, deals a heap of damage, and moves around the map really quick. Black Widow's solo mission though was painful. Black Widow has a heap of close range attacks that deal a decent amount of damage, but she'll take the most damage if she gets hit, and as you haven't played a character this fragile before, it's a bit of a shock. It was the only time in the game where I'd have to actively stop fighting enemies to stop and look for health 4 times in one little fight. I only really got through this level 2 by spamming her ranged ability, which is her pistols. This part of the game basically felt like I was playing a cheap third-person shooter as well. It kind of felt awful. You'll also go up against some new and harder enemy variants and even a boss fight during the solo Black Widow level. There was even a point where I knocked an enemy out of the arena into toxic gas and the enemy bubble shielded itself and started healing. Thankfully, this was the only time you're really forced into playing as Black Widow, and after my experience playing as her in the solo level, I didn't want to play with her again unless I had the support of my fellow Avengers or friends. Not long after this though, you'll get a bit of a fake out solo mission as Thor, and honestly, this level is rad.
Is it any coincidence that this attack comes on the very day that AIM is supposed to unveil their promising new Adaptoid program? Oh, shit. You're welcome.
Thor's been volunteering since A-Day and has left his iconic hammer at Captain America's shrine the entire time. Now your helicarrier is under attack and Thor pops up out of nowhere, basically like how he does in the 2012 film.
What's the matter? Scared of a little lightning?
I'm not overly fond of what follows.
The voice acting and character on screen for Thor is also fantastic. Thor will play like a merge between of Hulk and Iron Man. Thor will be able to throw and call Mjolnir just like Kratos can in God of War with his axe the Leviathan, and you'll never get tired of this attack. Throwing Mjolnir at an enemy will even pin them up against the wall and they'll stay there until you call Mjolnir back. Thor will also be able to fly around just like Iron Man. He'll be able to hover in place and then go into his flight mode and he'll start spinning up his hammer and throw it, pulling him into the air.
You rode a hammer.
No, I didn't ride that.
The hammer rode you on your back.
No. I used to spin it really fast, and it would pull me off
Oh my god, the hammer pulled you off.
the ground. It would pull me off the ground up into the air, and I would fly.
Thor also has a rage ability similar to the Hulk, but it's called the Odin Force. You'll deal more damage and shock enemies around you, but the Odin Force drains a lot quicker than Hulk's rage mode. Thor will also have an overcharge mode like Iron Man does, where you'll be able to use your Odin Force for as long as you'd like in a short period of time, as well as a huge lightning strike for an offensive ability. Thor's ultimate ability is he calls down the Bifrost and even calls out for Heimdall, which not only looks fucking rad, but when you teleport back down, you'll slam into the ground, dealing a heap of damage and leaving the cool little Bifrost burn in the ground as well. The final character to unlock is Captain America, and while I won't explain how you unlock him to avoid spoilers for you, his gameplay is surprisingly great. After the Black Widow mission, I expected Captain America to be awful as a solo character, but my god, I was wrong. Captain's range attack is him throwing his shield, which has that metallic clang effect. It sounds great. Where Thor and Hulk have the ability to go into a rage mode and deal more damage, Captain America will hold up his shield and block incoming attacks. Though as you block attacks, his blocking gauge will drop. The Captain's abilities are a rallying support cry, buffing and increasing the recharge rate of nearby Avengers' abilities. Captain will also have an offensive attack, throwing his shield around the room and bouncing off every enemy. Now Captain's ultimate is just like a rage mode where he'll deal a heap of damage, and all of his attacks involve him throwing his shield around in some way. Outside of the main campaign, which will continue over time with new DLC and story arcs, there's also side missions. Now there's side missions that will be like these SHIELD agents need your help, and then there's side missions that'll be for characters. Sort of like the side missions you get in the Mass Effect series. By helping Thor take down an imposter or Dr. Banner destroy a Gamma Lab, you will not only level up your character as you play, but you'll be rewarded with better gear and even unlock outfits. You'll be able to level up your Avengers in a variety of ways, and there's a fuckload of options here. You'll be able to unlock new combos, attacks and perks, which will obviously change and buff your Avenger. There's an upgrade for Thor that will let him spin Mjolnir before he throws it to deal more damage, and then there's an upgrade for that will have an electrical charge field follow the hammer as he throws it, shocking enemies nearby. By far the coolest upgrade is for Iron Man, and that's the variety of ranged attacks. You'll start off with the standard repulsors before being able to unlock lasers, which is basically what you see Iron Man use in Iron Man 2. On top of that, you will also unlock rockets for Iron Man to fire. Now repulsors are an all-around damage, while the lasers are weaker, but they use less energy, and as you guessed it, the rockets deal more damage, but they chew through your energy like I chew through your sister's undies. The cool detail too is when you swap weapons as Iron Man, his position will change. The repulsor will come out of his left hand, the lasers will come out of his right wrist, and then the rockets will come out of his left forearm. Sadly though, there's no moving panels and parts that lift up to reveal these weapons as you're about to fire them or as you change to those weapons. It would be nice to see a rocket actually come out of Iron Man's forearm, sort of like it does in the films. Marvel's Avengers is also a games as a service title similar to Destiny, and even some of the menus and gear setup is similar, again, to Destiny. Each Avenger will be able to equip certain items and upgrades, altering their stats and power levels. You'll be able to upgrade Iron Man's gauntlets, the Hulk's bones, and equip body armor for Black Widow. Now, I'll be breaking down this stuff in a later video, but as you can see, it basically works the same as any looter shooter. In the campaign though, I was basically equipping better leveled gear, not paying attention to the class of gear better suited for certain missions. It's worth noting though that equipping these items will not change how your character looks, as this is done on the cosmetic page. You'll find new gear and equipment from defeating enemies and bosses, mission rewards, or by purchasing it from vendors just like other looter shooters, but you cannot purchase it with premium currency. Now, there are a lot of people who bitched and complained about the costume design for every character in Avengers, and there were some initial outfits for this game that I thought looked kinda stupid, like Captain America's. Well, I'm glad to say that there are a fuckload of outfits. Some outfits are pulled straight from the comic books, while others are new and creative ideas. It's worth noting though that there are no MCU suits as of yet. You'll have about 2 or 3 outfits to unlock from the campaign, and then have the option to unlock outfits in the relevant character's challenge card. Now, there are no loot boxes in Marvel's Avengers, but there are microtransactions. Thankfully, these are only used for cosmetic skins, nameplates, and emotes. There's also a cosmetic vendor on the Chimera, which works a little bit like the tower from Destiny, where you'll be able to purchase outfits with in-game vendor currency, a currency that cannot be purchased too. This currency is easily found by completing missions, exploring, and opening hidden loot chests. That being said, with the premium currency, costumes cost between, say, 900 to 1400 credits depending on the costume. Conversion rate is about $8 per 500 credits in Australia. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm enjoying the Avengers a fair bit, and I like costumes for my characters, so of course I bought premium currency for a sweet outfit for Thor. But you don't have to buy the premium currency in order to get the premium currency. DLC characters are going to be free in Marvel's Avengers, with the first one being Kate Bishop and then Hawkeye, but if you want to unlock the character's challenge card, it will cost you an additional $10. Challenge cards are like the season system in Fortnite or F1 2020 or the Rainbow Six Siege's Battle Pass system. By completing daily and weekly challenges, you'll move through the challenge card and you'll be rewarded with premium currency, emotes, nameplates, and costumes. Now, there are some issues I had with playing Avengers besides the gameplay mechanics of Black Widow's story unlock mission. In cutscenes where Hulk turns back into Bruce Banner, a magical shield jacket will appear out of nowhere. The first time I noticed this was in a cutscene that took place immediately after playing the game with the Hulk by my side, and Banner was wearing a shield jacket attempting to cover his bare chest. Now, there's even a scene in the game where he'll transform from the Hulk back into Banner and the jacket will appear from nowhere. Why not just have him in tattered clothes with his chest open and he's shamelessly covering his nipples? I also had some graphical issues here and there where Kamala Khan was bald in the cutscene where she breathes in the Terrigen mist. Now, I've seen a lot of people complain and whine about this, but we had a Assassin's Creed game released with the fucking characters missing their faces.
That's enough! That's enough!
Now, I love Thor and he's my main while playing Avengers, but I feel like Thor shouldn't be able to fly without Mjolnir. If you throw and pin Mjolnir to the ground, you'll still be able to float and hover around the map, with the hammer staying where it is. If you go into a flight mode though, he'll call back his hammer and he'll start flying. I feel like if Thor doesn't have his hammer, he shouldn't be able to fly. Mjolnir can also be used to pin down high-powered enemies to the point where they'll just be helpless with Mjolnir pinning them down, and this is definitely a way to cheese some of the enemy variants if they're too powerful. Simply throw the hammer onto the enemy, beat the crap out of them without calling back your hammer, and it's done. Each character also has a mode of traversal in the game. Captain America can wall run and double jump, Iron Man and Thor of course can fly. Black Widow is basically Spider-Man in that she runs and jumps and uses a grappling gun to swing around the map. Same with Kamala Khan, that she'll stretch out her hands and grab onto branches and swing around and pull herself up. I mean, I get it, they need to have some form of movement, but Black Widow could totally use a bike or a vehicle of some kind. What's Hawkeye going to do when he releases? Swing on a rope arrow? Sure. By far the biggest annoyance is the Hulk. The Hulk's traversal is leaping around the map, which 100% makes sense, but his leaps are awful. The Hulk should fucking leap, not this frog hopping crap that he does. The leaping distance and height is what Thor should do when he's jumping around without Mjolnir. It's actually quite embarrassing. We've seen in multiple other video games, comic books, and of course in the movies that the Hulk can fucking jump, but in this game he's bouncing around like an Easter bunny.
Surtur destroys Asgard, he destroys Hellas so that our people may live. But we need to let him finish the job, otherwise... No.
What really would have made this game shine is its world. You'll go into these little sub-open worlds as you traverse around these areas for your missions, where Marvel Avengers would have really been fantastic in an open world setting like New York, or even base the game in San Francisco, where the game even starts, except for certain areas that are part of the story where you're out of San Francisco. A GTA or Red Dead size open world where you and 3 buddies are roaming around freely as the Avengers? Why the fuck was this not a 100% locked in idea? If we ever get a sequel to this game, and we will because we got a sequel to Destiny, fuck the sub-open worlds, give me a full open city. Just imagine the LEGO Avengers game we got from 2013, but in sort of a real life setting with these graphics. Fuck. The Chimera floating above the city, which you can return to at any time. To go down to the city, you just take the Quinjet or call it in if you're already on the ground, or just do what Captain America does and jump off the side. I'm loving the gameplay and the combat, but for me this was just a massive missed opportunity. Finally, every enemy in this game is aim, aim, aim. What Destiny got right, and I can't believe the words that are coming out of my mouth, was the different enemy factions and bosses. There's only a handful of bosses in the Avengers campaign, and every enemy is tied to aim. There is one enemy that isn't really tied to aim, but this boss or enemy uses aim as their personal goons, which is just lazy. Sure, have aim as the campaign big bad guys, but give us Hydra for Captain America missions, or certain subworlds, or if it was an open world, certain sections or suburbs were controlled by different factions like Hydra. Let's have the Frost Giants invade Midgard somewhere, rather than just aim have taken control of this, and aim are doing this, and oh no, aim have kidnapped that.
As the military begins to mobilize,
Marvel's Avengers is something we've never seen before. You will feel incredible as the Hulk, you'll be mighty as Thor and invincible as Iron Man. Sure, there are some missteps with the sub-open worlds where it should have just been an open world city like we got with, say, Spider-Man on PS4, and some of the traversal and aim doing everything, but Marvel's Avengers does a lot of great things too. The combat is fantastic, the story is full of heart and character development, and the voice acting is fantastic.
Oh, you're funny.
Yes, I am.
Sure, every now and then I heard Nolan North's Deadpool come out of Iron Man, but I still laughed and enjoyed it at the same time. I'll be taking a deeper look into the multiplayer, power levels and gear systems, and we'll be coming back regularly to the Avengers with new DLC releases and updates, as I think there's a load of potential here. If you enjoyed this video, a like, comment, share or subscribe would be a rad way of helping me out. If there is something you want me to take a look at with Avengers, or if there's any questions about the gameplay, microtransactions, or anything Avengers related, like what DLC character you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below.